Financial freedom does not begin the day you earn more money. It begins the day you start thinking differently. That sentence alone already challenges everything most people believe about success, salary, and prosperity. Because if money were truly the problem, then every raise, every promotion, every new opportunity would instantly solve financial stress. Yet millions of people earn more than ever before and still live anxious, trapped, and one unexpected bill away from collapse. So what if the real issue is not your income, not inflation, not the economy, but the way your mind has been trained to relate to money? What if the Bible has already revealed this mechanism clearly, but almost no one talks about it? And what if one overlooked verse has been silently shaping financial freedom for centuries, while most people continue chasing the wrong solution? Most people were surprised the first time they realized this message is not built around the famous verse Philippians 4:13, the one often quoted as a slogan of motivation. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. That verse is powerful, inspiring, and widely shared. But motivation alone has never created financial stability. What changes lives is wisdom, and wisdom often hides in places people overlook. Just one verse earlier, quietly sitting in Philippians 4:12, there is a statement that functions less like encouragement and more like a blueprint for financial maturity. Paul writes that he knows how to live humbly, and he knows how to live in abundance. That in every situation, he has learned how to remain steady. At first glance, it sounds purely spiritual, but when examined closely, it reveals a financial mindset code that explains why some people remain stable regardless of income, while others collapse even when money increases. This verse is rarely preached in the context of money, yet it directly addresses the root problem behind most financial struggles. Paul is not describing luck, income level, or opportunity. He is describing training. He says, I have learned. That phrase alone destroys the illusion that financial peace is automatic. Learning implies process, discipline, mistakes, correction, and growth. Paul did not say he was born knowing how to manage abundance or survive scarcity. He learned it. And that learning created internal stability long before external conditions changed. This is where most people get trapped. They believe financial peace arrives when circumstances improve. But Paul reveals that peace is formed internally first, then expressed externally. What makes this verse uncomfortable is that it removes the excuse. It suggests that instability is not caused by seasons, but by lack of preparation. Paul could have little without becoming desperate, and he could have much without becoming reckless. That balance is exactly what modern society lacks. Many people function only in one mode. When money is low, panic takes over. When money is high, discipline disappears. The verse exposes that problem mercilessly. It tells us that true wealth is not measured by how much you have, but by how you behave when circumstances shift. This is why Philippians 4:12 is not a feel-good verse. It is a mirror. It forces you to confront the uncomfortable truth that without a renewed mindset, more money will not save you. It will only magnify existing habits, fears, and emotional patterns. That is why people who receive raises often feel poor again within months. Their environment changed, but their mind stayed the same. Paul's declaration shows that freedom does not come from earning more, but from learning better. And until that learning happens, financial stress simply changes shape, never substance. One of the most damaging beliefs people carry about money is the idea that scarcity is a punishment. When there is not enough, many immediately assume they are failing, abandoned, or somehow unworthy of stability. That belief silently poisons every financial decision they make. Paul confronts this thinking directly when he says he learned how to live with little. He does not say he identified with lack, nor does he say he accepted it as a permanent condition. He frames it as a lesson, a season of training rather than a sentence. This distinction changes everything. A scarcity mindset interprets limited resources as proof of defeat. A trained mindset interprets them as a classroom where discipline, focus, and restraint are developed. This is why so many people remain financially trapped even when their income increases. Without training, more money simply feeds old habits. You have probably seen it happen. Someone receives a raise, lands a better job, or experiences a temporary financial breakthrough, and within weeks, they are just as stressed as before. The numbers changed, but the pressure remained. That is not an income problem. It is a mindset problem. Scarcity follows the untrained mind like a shadow, regardless of how much light money brings. Paul understood that if the mind is not renewed, abundance becomes dangerous rather than liberating. Learning to live with little teaches precision. It forces you to see where money leaks, where impulses override reason, and where emotions disguise themselves as needs. Instead of spending automatically, you begin to choose intentionally. You learn how to eliminate what is unnecessary, control the urge to compensate emotionally, and prioritize what actually matters. This kind of training is uncomfortable, which is why most people resist it. They want relief, not refinement. But Paul's message suggests that relief without refinement creates fragility, while refinement creates resilience. Paul then takes the lesson even further. He says he learned how to live in abundance as well. This may sound obvious, but it is actually where many people fail. They assume abundance requires no discipline, only enjoyment. Yet abundance without control destroys faster than scarcity ever could. People overspend because they believe the season will last forever. They relax standards, ignore structure, and let emotions take over. Paul reveals a rare form of maturity. Stability that does not depend on circumstances. He does not panic when resources are low, and he does not lose control when resources are high. This kind of stability is deeply countercultural. Society teaches people to react emotionally to financial seasons, panic when money drops, celebrate recklessly when it rises. Paul teaches the opposite. He shows that wisdom means staying internally steady while external conditions change. When income decreases, you do not rush into impulsive loans or emotional spending. When income increases, you do not inflate your lifestyle as if nothing could go wrong. True wealth is not about escaping difficult seasons. It is about becoming competent in every season. The uncomfortable truth is this. Many people are not financially poor because they earn little. They are financially unstable because they were never trained. And training, by definition, happens before performance, not after success arrives. Paul's words expose the flaw in waiting for a breakthrough to change behavior. The breakthrough often comes after the behavior changes. Scarcity, when understood correctly, is not your enemy. It is the place where financial character is formed. Those who pass the training do not fear abundance, and those who fail it remain slaves to every fluctuation. Most people believe their financial struggle is mathematical. They assume the issue is not enough income, not enough opportunity, or not enough time. But beneath the numbers, there is usually something far more powerful driving their decisions: emotion. Paul's words reveal that learning to live in any circumstance is not just about budgets or discipline. It is about emotional mastery. Many people do not have a money problem. They have an emotional relationship with money that quietly controls them. Guilt, shame, fear, and anxiety often sit behind the choices that lead to debt, overspending, and constant financial stress. Some people feel guilty when they have money, as if prosperity makes them morally suspicious. Others feel ashamed when they lack it, as if scarcity defines their worth as a person. Many feel anxious every time they open their banking app, not because the numbers are shocking, but because money has become a measure of identity. These emotions distort judgment. They push people to spend impulsively, borrow unnecessarily, or buy things they do not need simply to feel relief, validation, or control for a brief moment. Paul's declaration that he learned to remain steady shows that freedom begins when emotions no longer dictate financial behavior. When emotions lead, logic follows reluctantly, if at all. People buy clothes because they feel empty, eat out because they feel lonely, upgrade devices because they feel left behind, and spend to impress because they fear being insignificant. These decisions rarely feel irrational in the moment. They feel justified. But over time, they create patterns that drain resources and reinforce anxiety. Renewing a financial mindset means confronting these emotional triggers honestly. It requires recognizing that money is a tool, not a therapist, and that spending cannot heal what insecurity created. Paul's phrase, "I have learned," implies an internal transformation. He did not allow hunger to define his dignity, nor abundance to inflate his ego. His emotions were no longer tied to his circumstances. This is critical, because as long as money is connected to self-worth, every financial decision becomes loaded with pressure. Fear leads to hoarding or panic borrowing. Pride leads to lifestyle inflation. Comparison leads to unnecessary competition. A renewed mindset breaks this cycle by separating identity from income. Another uncomfortable truth emerges here. Many financial mistakes are not caused by ignorance, but by avoidance. People avoid looking at their finances because it triggers anxiety. They avoid planning because it exposes past errors. They avoid structure because it feels restrictive. But avoidance is itself an emotional response, and it quietly compounds damage over time. Paul's stability shows that emotional order must come before financial order. When emotions are regulated, decisions become clearer, calmer, and more strategic. The moment money stops being an emotional battlefield, clarity begins. You stop buying to feel better and start spending to move forward. You stop reacting and start choosing. This shift does not happen overnight, but it is essential. Without it, no strategy works long-term. With it, even simple habits begin to produce lasting change. Emotional maturity, not income level, becomes the foundation of financial stability. Many people pray for more income, a better job, or a financial breakthrough, yet they avoid one uncomfortable question. What would happen if more money arrived today? For most, the answer is chaos. More spending, more pressure, more stress, and eventually more debt. The issue is rarely the amount they earn. It is the absence of structure. Paul's stability reveals a principle most people resist. Order must come before abundance. Without order, any increase only amplifies disorder. Money does not fix poor management. It exposes it. Disorganized finances are not healed by higher income. They are healed by clarity. When there is no structure, money moves without intention. Expenses are reactive, savings are accidental, and debt becomes a coping mechanism. Paul's disciplined mindset reflects a life where resources are handled with purpose regardless of quantity. This principle is echoed repeatedly in wisdom literature, yet ignored in practice. Many people confuse faith with disorder, believing that planning shows a lack of trust. In reality, order is not the opposite of faith. It is an expression of responsibility. This leads to another hidden barrier: deeply rooted but biblically incorrect beliefs about money. Some believe that wanting improvement is selfish. Others think saving demonstrates fear, or that prosperity is inherently immoral. These beliefs sound spiritual, but they quietly sabotage progress. They create an internal ceiling that limits growth long before external limits appear. Paul's life contradicts these assumptions. He was not obsessed with money, but he was deeply intentional with what he had. The problem is not stewardship. The problem is worship. Money becomes dangerous only when it replaces purpose. These incorrect beliefs keep people stuck in cycles of barely enough. They normalize debt, excuse disorder, and glorify struggle as virtue. Statements like, "I will always live paycheck to paycheck," or "money just isn't for people like me," feel humble but function as self-imposed prisons. They shape behavior, expectations, and outcomes. Paul's mindset exposes the lie behind them. Stability is learned. Discipline is practiced. Freedom is built intentionally, not waited for passively. True financial maturity requires confronting these beliefs honestly. It means recognizing that wanting clarity is not greed, that saving is not fear, and that growth does not cancel generosity. When order is established, money stops being overwhelming and starts becoming manageable. Categories bring peace. Boundaries create freedom. Structure reduces anxiety. For many people, the miracle they are waiting for is not more income, but better management of what already exists. When order comes first, abundance becomes a tool rather than a threat. Without order, abundance becomes a test most people fail. Paul passed that test because his mindset was not reactive. It was prepared. And preparation, not prayer alone, is what turns opportunity into stability. Paul's declaration reaches its deepest level when he reveals that his identity never shifted with his circumstances. He could be full or hungry, surrounded by abundance or facing lack, and yet remain internally anchored. This is where most financial struggles are finally exposed. Many people do not live from identity. They live from need. Need-driven living creates urgency, pressure, and fear. Decisions are made to escape discomfort rather than to build a future. People spend to feel secure, borrow to feel relief, and chase status to feel valuable. Paul shows a radically different model. When identity is firm, money loses its emotional power. A person grounded in identity does not need purchases to prove worth. They do not upgrade to impress, spend to compete, or consume to fill emptiness. Money becomes a tool for movement, not validation. This shift alone transforms behavior. Savings increase because impulse loses control. Debt decreases because urgency fades. Direction becomes clearer because decisions are no longer emotional reactions. Identity stabilizes finances in ways income never can. Paul also reveals a powerful truth about seasons. Most people allow financial seasons to dictate their mindset. When times are good, discipline disappears. When times are hard, panic takes over. A renewed mindset refuses this cycle. In strong seasons, it accumulates instead of relaxing. In weak seasons, it maintains order instead of despairing. This long-term thinking is what separates those who survive from those who grow. Seasons change. Discipline should not. This is why true abundance begins in the mind. It does not matter how much money flows through your hands. if your thinking remains unchanged. Without renewal, more income only increases complexity, stress, and temptation. Paul could experience abundance without pride and scarcity, without victimhood, because his mind was trained, not reactive. That training is the foundation of lasting freedom. Real abundance is not having more. It is thinking differently. It is managing money without being managed by it. It is making decisions without anxiety, comparison, or pressure. When expenses are controlled, debt is reduced, savings are intentional, and investments are purposeful, peace follows naturally. Not because life is perfect, but because the mind is stable. This message ends with a question that demands honesty. The issue is not how much you earn today. The issue is how you think. Because when thinking changes, decisions change. When decisions change, outcomes follow. Financial freedom is not a lottery prize. It is the result of a renewed mind, disciplined habits, and a clear identity. The human lesson is simple yet demanding. Societies do not change through income alone, but through education, responsibility, and ethical stewardship. Individuals do not escape financial cycles by chance, but by learning. History shows that prosperity without discipline collapses, but discipline creates resilience that outlasts any economy. Renewing the mind is not just personal wisdom, it is social responsibility.